Wait, his office? This man was Lucas Reed? She had imagined him to be just a grumpy old man. Looked like she only got the former right. I'm sorry, Mr. Reed, I was just... Get out. Lucas's voice didn't rise in volume, but the command in it made Evelyn flinch. I'm calling Whitmore right now. You're fired. Security will escort you from the building. Panic seized Evelyn's chest. No, 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 no. She couldn't get fired. Not now. Not when Mama's surgery was scheduled for next week and she was already short on the payment plan installment. Please, Mr. Reed, Evelyn's voice cracked. Please don't fire me. I need this job. My mother is sick. She has cancer, and I need the money for her surgery. I'll work harder. I'll never sit down again. Everyone has a sob story, Lucas interrupted coldly. He walked around to his desk, giving Evelyn a wide berth, she noticed, and reached for his phone. Yours doesn't interest me. Evelyn did something desperate, something stupid. She lunged forward and grabbed his wrist before he could pick up the device. Please, she begged, please, just... The world exploded, not with pain or disgust, but with a jolt of pure electricity that shot up Evelyn's arm and straight through her entire body. It was like touching a live wire, but instead of hurting, it sent pleasant tingles everywhere, a warm, shocking current that made her gasp and let go instantly. Blue light sparked between them, visible and crackling. Lucas recoiled like she'd burned him. His whole body jerked backward with such force that his elbow caught the edge of the desk. The device, not a phone, but something far more sophisticated, went flying. It arced through the air as if in slow motion, tumbling end over end, and smashed against the marble floor with a sound like a gunshot. The sleek biometric hardware key shattered into pieces, its internal circuits sparking and smoking, the LED screen flickering once before going completely dark. For a moment, there was absolute silence. Evelyn stared at the destroyed device, her mind reeling from the strange electric connection she'd just felt. Her hand still tingled where she'd touched him. Lucas stared at his bare wrist where she'd touched him, his face twisted in something between shock and something else entirely, something that looked almost like astonishment. That device, Lucas said very quietly, his eyes still fixed on his wrist, then to her hand, cost $50 million. $50 million? What? Custom-made, encrypted, biometrically coded to my unique frequency, the only master key that unlocks every server, every vault, every secure system in my empire. Lucas finally looked up at her, and there was something strange in his gaze now, something calculating, and you just destroyed it. I don't have $50 million. No. Lucas's voice was cold, but his eyes kept flicking back to his wrist, then to her hand. But you're going to pay for it. Every penny. How? I can't. You will work it off. Lucas pulled out a standard phone from his other pocket and began typing rapidly. But there's something else. Something impossible. He turned the phone screen toward her. On it was a graph, electromagnetic frequency readings. 2 lines perfectly synchronized. When you touched me, the biometric scanner registered your frequency before it shorted out. Do you understand what that means? Evelyn shook her head, still trembling. It means your electromagnetic signature is a perfect match to mine. 1 in 7 billion odds, maybe worse. Your dark eyes locked onto hers with an intensity that made her knees weak. You're not just paying off a debt, Miss Hart. You're the only person on Earth who can restore access to my systems until I can rebuild that key, and that process takes 6 months minimum. I don't understand. You don't need to understand. You just need to comply. Lucas's voice took on that commanding tone again. I have a chef, 2 housekeepers, and 2 maintenance staff who handle everything in my home. I'm going to give them all extended vacation. You're going to replace them. Evelyn's mouth fell open. 1 person can't do the work of 5 people. Then you'll work very hard. No, Evelyn interrupted, her pride finally kicking in. "No, I'm not going to be your servant. I'd rather go to jail." She turned and ran out of the office, not waiting to be escorted. She didn't look back, she just ran, her heart pounding, her mind reeling from that electric touch and the crazy offer and the sheer arrogance of this man who thought he could buy her life. She ran all the way to the service elevator and didn't stop until she was out of the building and on the street, hailing a cab to the hospital. Evelyn burst into Cook County Hospital at 4:12 a.m., her chest heaving, her mind a mess. She ran to Victoria Sloan's room and found a team of doctors and nurses surrounding the bed. Her heart stopped. "What's happening? What's wrong?" Dr. Grant turned, his face grim. "Miss Hart, your mother's condition has worsened. She's gone into cardiac arrest. We've revived her, but she's critical. We need to perform emergency surgery now if she has any chance of survival." "Then do it," Evelyn cried. "We can't," Dr. Grant said gently, "not without the payment. The hospital requires at least half the total cost before we can proceed with a procedure this risky. That's $140,000, Miss Hart. We need it now." Just as he said it, two large men in dark suits appeared behind her, Henry Wallace, Lucas Reed's head of security, and another guard. "Miss Hart," Henry said, his voice cold, "Mr. Reed requires your presence immediately." "No!" Evelyn cried, gesturing to her mother's room. "I'm not going anywhere. My mother is dying." "She'll die anyway if you don't come with us," the other guard said, grabbing her arm. Just then, Henry's phone rang. He answered it. "Sir?" Evelyn could hear Lucas's voice, faint but clear on the other end. "Is that the doctor? Put him on speaker." Henry tapped the screen. Dr. Grant's voice filled the small space. "I'm sorry, without the funds, there's nothing more we can do." "How much is the total?" Lucas's voice cut through the speaker, sharp and commanding. "The full surgical procedure and recovery care is $300,000. Transfer the funds now. All of it. I want her in surgery within the hour." Dr. Grant stared, his mouth open. Who is this?" "Someone who believes in paying his debts," Lucas's voice came through the phone again, directed at Evelyn this time, "and collecting what he's owed." Henry hung up and made a call. "James, transfer $300,000 to Cook County Hospital. Patient Victoria Sloan. Mark it as payment in full. Now." Dr. Grant stared at Evelyn, stunned. I don't understand what's going on here, but the funds have just cleared. Your mother is being prepped for surgery now. She has a chance." Evelyn looked through the window into the operating room where they were wheeling her mother away. A chance. That's all she'd ever wanted. Henry's phone rang again. Lucas's voice came through, cold and final. "Miss Hart, you refused my offer, so now the terms have changed. Your mother's medical bills are paid in full, but you now owe me $350,000, the medical costs plus the damage to my biometric system. At $30 an hour, working for me 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, that will take you approximately 2 years to pay off." Evelyn felt the blood drain from her face. You can't. You already did. And Miss Hart, there's one more thing. Until I can rebuild that key, I need you close. Your biometric frequency is the only backup authorization I have for critical systems. You'll be staying within proximity of my home office at all times. What does that mean? It means you start at my penthouse tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. sharp. Don't be late. The line went dead. Do you think the spark is because they met in a past life, or is Lucas hiding a scientific secret? Vote in the comments. The address Lucas had texted Evelyn was in the Gold Coast, one of the most expensive neighborhoods in Chicago. Evelyn stood outside the sleek glass building at 5:52 a.m., staring up at the tower that overlooked Lake Michigan like it owned the view. She'd taken 3 buses to get here because she couldn't afford an Uber, and now she stood in the private lobby with a key card in her shaking hand. The elevator was private. It went directly to the penthouse. No stops in between. You can do this, Evelyn told herself. It's just 2 years. 2 years of cooking and cleaning for a control-freak billionaire, and then mom is healthy and you're free, and this is all just a bad memory. She swiped the keycard. The elevator doors opened. Evelyn stepped inside and the doors closed behind her with a soft whisper that sounded like a trap snapping shut. The penthouse was exactly what Evelyn expected, and somehow worse. Everything was white and chrome and glass. The furniture looked like it belonged in a museum. The art on the walls was definitely real and definitely worth more than Evelyn would make in her entire lifetime. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed a view of Lake Michigan that was so beautiful it hurt. And it was absolutely, perfectly, obsessively clean. Not a speck of dust, not a single item out of place. Even the throw pillows on the couch were arranged at precise angles, like someone had measured them with a protractor. "You're 8 minutes early." Evelyn jumped and spun around. Lucas stood in a doorway she hadn't noticed, dressed in workout clothes, expensive athletic wear that showed off his broad shoulders and muscular frame. He had a towel around his neck and a water bottle in his hand. He must have just finished exercising. He looked good. Really good. The kind of good that made Evelyn's mouth go dry, despite the fact that she was supposed to hate him. "I thought early was better than late," Evelyn said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Early is unpredictable. Unpredictable disrupts my schedule." Lucas's dark eyes swept over her, assessing. "But I suppose it shows initiative. There's a schedule on the kitchen counter. Follow it exactly. I'll be in my office working. Don't disturb me unless the building is on fire." He disappeared through another door before Evelyn could respond. Evelyn stood in the massive living room, alone, and let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. 2 years, she reminded herself. You can survive anything for 2 years. The schedule was typed, printed, and laminated. Of course it was. Daily schedule, household staff. 6 a.m., prepare breakfast. Egg white omelet with spinach and tomatoes. No cheese. 1 slice whole grain toast. Dry. Black coffee, French press. Exactly 4 minutes brewing time. Fresh orange juice squeezed that morning, not from carton. 7 a.m., serve breakfast. Place in dining room on Eastern placemat. Utensils exactly 1 inch from plate edge. Coffee cup handle at 3 o'clock position. 7:30 a.m., clean kitchen. Wash all dishes immediately. Wipe counters with antibacterial solution. Mop floor. The list went on for pages. Every minute of Evelyn's 12-hour day was accounted for, scheduled, controlled, just like everything else in Lucas Reed's life. Evelyn found the kitchen, which was bigger than her entire apartment, and got to work. The omelet was a disaster. Not burn down the kitchen disaster like some people might manage, but definitely not the perfect fluffy creation the schedule seemed to demand. The eggs were a little rubbery, the vegetables weren't distributed evenly, and when Evelyn tried to flip it, the whole thing broke apart into scrambled egg chunks. "Damn it," Evelyn muttered, staring at the mess in the pan. She scooped it onto a plate anyway, arranged it as nicely as she could, and added the toast and coffee and orange juice, which had taken her 20 minutes to squeeze by hand, because, of course, Lucas didn't have an electric juicer. He had some fancy manual press that required actual effort. At exactly 7 a.m., Evelyn carried the tray to the dining room. Lucas was already seated, reading something on his tablet, wearing a fresh suit that probably cost more than Evelyn's car. He didn't look up when she entered. Evelyn set the plate down on the placemat, eastern side, just like the schedule said. She positioned the utensils exactly 1 inch from the edge. She turned the coffee cup so the handle was at 3 o'clock. Lucas glanced at the food. His expression didn't change, but Evelyn saw his jaw tighten slightly. "This omelet is scrambled," he said quietly. "I know. I'm not a chef. I did my best." Your best resulted in scrambled eggs when I requested an omelet. Then maybe you should lower your expectations, Evelyn shot back before she could stop herself. Lucas's eyes flicked up to meet hers, and for a moment Evelyn thought she'd just made a terrible mistake. This man owned her for the next 2 years. He could make her life hell if he wanted. But instead of anger, something that looked almost like amusement flickered in his dark eyes. "Lower my expectations," he repeated slowly, like he was testing out a foreign concept. No one has ever suggested that before. Maybe they should have. Lucas picked up his fork and took a bite of the scrambled omelet thing. He chewed slowly, thoughtfully, then swallowed. "It's adequate," he said finally. "Tomorrow, watch a video on how to make a proper omelet. YouTube has thousands of tutorials. Pick one and learn." "Yes, sir," Evelyn said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "And Miss Hart." Lucas's voice stopped her as she turned to leave. "I don't require you to call me sir. Lucas is fine." Evelyn looked back at him, surprised. "You want me to call you by your first name?" "We'll be working closely together for 2 years. Formality seems unnecessary." He took a sip of his coffee, and Evelyn saw the tiniest hint of satisfaction cross his face. "The coffee is perfect, by the way. However you made it, do it exactly the same tomorrow." It was probably the closest thing to a compliment Lucas Reed had ever given anyone. As Evelyn took the tray back to the kitchen, she felt strange, like static electricity was building under her skin. Her hand brushed the metal counter as she set down the dishes, and a tiny blue spark jumped. She gasped, jerking her hand back. The lights flickered once. In the other room, she heard a sudden clatter, like something had dropped. "Damn it!" Lucas's voice came from the dining room, frustrated. Evelyn peeked around the corner. Lucas was staring at his pen, which had rolled across the table. His hand was raised, frozen in midair, like he'd dropped it involuntarily. At the exact same moment, she'd felt the spark. They didn't see each other, but Evelyn's heart began to race. What is happening to us? Evelyn spent the rest of the morning following the schedule with robotic precision. Laundry, organizing, dusting surfaces that didn't have dust. At 2 p.m., the schedule said, "Clean home office. Mr. Reed will be in meetings. Do not disturb desk contents." She entered Lucas's home office, a sleek space with dark wood furniture, multiple monitors, and walls lined with books organized by subject and color. As she dusted around his desk, careful not to touch anything, her eyes landed on one of the monitors. It wasn't off, it was in sleep mode, and her motion must have triggered the motion sensor. The screen blazed to life. Evelyn froze. On the screen was a graph, electromagnetic frequency readings. 2 wavelengths, perfectly synchronized, moving in identical patterns. At the top of the screen, biometric match analysis, subject, Evelyn Hart. Below it, files and files of data. Neural frequency patterns, electromagnetic resonance compatibility, temporal synchronization events, proximity effect radius 50 meters, and at the bottom, a single note in Lucas's handwriting, photographed and uploaded. The frequency matches. She's the key. Investigate family connection. Priority, urgent. Evelyn's blood ran cold. He wasn't just punishing her with work, he was studying her. What does he know? What is he looking for? The monitor dimmed back to sleep mode, leaving Evelyn standing there, her heart pounding, questions multiplying in her mind. That evening, as Evelyn prepared dinner, another disaster, but at least the pasta was edible, Lucas emerged from his office. "Miss Hart." "Yes?" "There's been a change to your schedule." He handed her a revised laminated sheet. "You'll notice I've added a proximity requirement." Evelyn scanned the document. Her eyes widened. "Employee must remain within 50 meters of primary residence office between hours of 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Exception: grocery shopping with approved list only." 50 meters? That's basically house arrest. It's a necessary security measure, Lucas said coolly. My systems require periodic biometric authentication while the master key is being rebuilt. Your presence ensures business continuity. You're using me as a human password. I prefer to think of it as mutually beneficial employment. His dark eyes studied her with that unnerving intensity. You work, your mother lives. Simple. But Evelyn noticed something else. Every time she stepped closer to him, the lights in the room seemed to hum, a barely audible frequency that made the hair on her arms stand up. And Lucas noticed it too. She could see it in the way his jaw tightened, the way his fingers twitched slightly, like he was feeling the same electric pull. Why is this happening? Evelyn asked quietly. This thing between us, what is it? Lucas was silent for a long moment. I don't know yet, he finally said, but I intend to find out. He turned and walked back to his office, leaving Evelyn standing in the kitchen, her mind racing with questions that had no answers. Do you think the spark is because they met in a past life, or is Lucas hiding a scientific secret? Vote in the comments. Evelyn couldn't sleep. She lay in the guest room Lucas had assigned her, a space nicer than any bedroom she'd ever had, with Egyptian cotton sheets and a view of the city that should have been calming, but only made her feel more trapped. Her mind kept circling back to that monitor, that note. Investigate family connection. What connection? Her mother was a cleaning woman who'd worked herself to the bone for 20 years. There was no connection to a billionaire's world. Unless... Evelyn sat up in bed, her heart beginning to race. She'd never known her father. Victoria had always said he'd left when Evelyn was a baby, that he wanted nothing to do with them. But what if that wasn't the whole truth? What if there was more to her family history than she'd been told? Evelyn slipped out of bed, pulling on a robe. The penthouse was dark except for the ambient city light filtering through the windows. She crept down the hallway, her bare feet silent on the hardwood floors. Lucas's private study was at the end of the hall. It was always locked. She'd tried the handle once while cleaning, and it hadn't budged. But tonight, as Evelyn approached, she saw a sliver of light under the door, and the door was cracked open. Her heart pounding, Evelyn pushed it open slowly. The study was smaller than she expected, more intimate. Leather-bound books lined the walls. A massive desk dominated the center, covered in papers and photographs. And there, right in the center of the desk, was Evelyn's contract. But that wasn't what made her blood turn to ice. Next to the contract was a photograph. Old, faded, the colors slightly yellowed with age. Evelyn picked it up with shaking hands. It was her mother, 20 years younger, maybe more. Victoria Sloane looked happy in the photo, radiant, wearing a dress that Evelyn had never seen. She was standing in front of a building Evelyn recognized, the Reed Building. But it was the person standing next to her mother that made her knees go weak. A man, handsome, tall, with the same dark eyes and sharp jaw that Lucas had. Written on the back in elegant handwriting, Victoria and Richard, summer of 2004. Richard Reed, Lucas's father. Evelyn's hands trembled as she set down the photograph and saw what was taped to the back of it, a small white note card in Lucas's precise handwriting. The frequency matches. She's the one. DNA test ordered. Confirms sister connection before revealing truth. Father's final request, protect her. Sister. The word echoed in Evelyn's mind like a bomb going off. Sister. Lucas Reed was her brother. As Lucas left for his midnight gala, Evelyn found his private study unlocked for the first time. On his desk wasn't just her contract, it was a photo of her mother from 20 years ago, and taped to the back was a note that sent a chill down her spine. The frequency matches. She's the one. What does Lucas really know about Evelyn's family, and why did he really pay for that surgery? This is only the beginning. If you want to know the truth behind the spark, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications so you don't miss the reveal that changes everything. Comment the photo if